Hello and welcome to Inventor's Quick Tips. In this episode, we'll be covering the basics of patent drawings or illustrations and what they need to show. Note that this episode covers drawings for regular patent applications. For provisional patent applications, there are no formatting rules. Most any drawing is accepted. For regular patent applications, there are rules and also some best practices. A short episode doesn't give time to cover everything, but the goal here is to give you some insight into what those drawings need to show. And first and foremost, the drawings need to cover what you have claimed. But beyond that, they need to show how to make and use the invention. Basically, that is called enablement. In general, there are lots of different ways you can show something in a patent figure, and it all depends on the invention. Some inventions won't require all these types of drawings, but most inventions will utilize at least one of the types you see here. And yes, it is true that some patents out there do not have any drawings at all, but that is the exception rather than the rule. So let's take a quick look at some examples. Let's say I invented this food cart. Now, I could show a perspective view like this, and note these are not patent drawings, but rather just illustrations of my invention. However, I could give these to a patent attorney or patent drafting service, and they could easily turn this drawing into a formal patent drawing. And we'll get into what a formal patent drawing looks like in a few minutes. But for now, let's identify a few parts of my food cart. We have some legs over here. We got shelves on each side, a roof cover thingy, and some wheels. Now, with those parts in mind, let's look at some other views we may want to show if we were going to prepare a patent application for this cart. Here is a top view, as if looking down at the cart from above. Here's a bottom view, as if I was underneath a glass floor looking up at the cart. A left side view and a right side view. And note, in cases where the right view and the left view are identical, it's a common practice to just include one side view. However, if the left and right sides of something are not identical, then showing both sides is advisable. Here's the front view where we see the cart legs, and the back view where we see the wheels of the cart. So as I mentioned, these are not patent drawings, but just to give you an idea of the angles or views we typically need to show. And when in doubt, show the drawing view. As a matter of practice, for most any mechanical thing, I include all those views because you never know what you're going to need as you try to get your patent application through the patent office. So in general, I'd rather have a few extra drawings than not enough drawings. But this is a simple food cart. Let's take a look at some other drawings that a patent may use. If we have important internal components, let's show them. Some inventions, especially software, manufacturing processes, and any other kinds of processes will likely benefit from flowcharts. Inventions that do something to something else benefit from before and after drawings. Here, as you see in Figure 6, we have this little vertical structure, and then as part of a process, we add a coating onto that vertical structure. This is part of a semiconductor patent application, so it involves adding a coating of material onto that little vertical piece. And in the patent application, as you're describing how the structure is made, you want to show each step of layers being added or removed. So this covers certain types of drawings. Now let's take a peek at what actually goes into a patent drawing. So here is a basic patent drawing of a bicycle shoe on a bicycle pedal. And let's just take a look at a couple key parts. Arrows, such as reference 12 here, are used to designate a group of parts. In this case, the entire shoe. Lead lines are the black lines that extend from a number to a part. So here for number 20. One end should be very close to the number without touching it, and the other end touches the part. So the reference here, number 20, refers to the pedal that the shoe is on top of. The lead line should never be mistaken as part of the invention, so I prefer the lead line style here that shows the lead lines with a slight curve. You notice each of these lead lines, such as that of number 20, are slightly curved. Sometimes lead lines are dotted, such as when they point to a dotted line or shape. In a patent drawing, the dotted lines typically refer to things that are not visible, some internal components, basically showing what is inside or behind an object. Numbers with an underline refer to the object that they are actually on. In this case, the rear portion of that shoe. This technique is used sometimes when a lead line is not practical, such as due to limitations in space. Each figure should be labeled. A plain Arial font is good for that, although in some older patents it's not unusual to see very ornate figure numbers. Here's another drawing example for a portable boxing heavy bag for training. And it's an older patent. As you can see, it has a very ornate figure 8 at the bottom. But the key things I want to show you for this drawing are first the shading. The shading can be done with lines close together or dots. Here it serves the purpose of helping identify object number 14 as a solid cushion. The shading helps us understand that it is of a cylindrical shape. Also, let's take a look at what isn't shown. The rules are that you need to show enough detail to enable somebody skilled in this field to make and use the invention. We don't need an illustration on par with a Norman Rockwell painting for the person that's using the punching bag. All we need is enough detail to show how somebody uses the punching bag. So the actual person that's punching the bag here in this figure is of pretty basic detail. Here's another example using an exploded view. So this is some kind of pliers, and the exploded view is very good for showing internal parts that may not be visible in the completed pliers, and also helps show how they go together in the completed product. So here we see all these little washers and springs and how they actually would be fit together to make the pliers. Here's an excerpt from a flowchart of a patent, and these are easily done on a computer with a PowerPoint or Visio. So let's do a quick utility patent drawings recap. And by the way, utility patent basically means a regular patent. So let's recap some key facts. Usually they are black and white line drawings. Every feature specified in the claims must be on a drawing, and you want to have a reference number for it. Show all necessary views. Remember, we went over some of the most popular views in patents. You don't need to have all the parts drawn exactly to scale, and you typically don't indicate dimensions. Now, the drawings in most cases are black and white line drawings, but in some circumstances, photographs can be used. Here's an example of an informal drawing versus a formal drawing for the same thing. On the left, obviously, is the informal drawing for an invention, and on the right is the corresponding formal drawing. The one on the left was a digital photo taken by the inventor, and then some crude numbers and lines were overlaid on it to point out the important parts. That drawing on the left is fine for a provisional patent application, but for a regular patent application, it should look like the one on the right. And again, unnecessary details can be omitted from the formal drawing. So those items circled in red on the informal drawing did not make it over to the formal drawing. Why? Because they were not relevant to this invention. Finally, again, I'll mention that normally photographs are not allowed. The exception is when a photograph is the only way to really show something. So the example I'm giving you here, this patent relates to a patent on a digital zoom processing effect for a digital camera, say in your phone or tablet. So of course, for explaining how a digital photo processing effect works, photos are the best way to do that, to show what the photographic effect is. So in this case, the patent office accepted the photos. And note that they are black and white photos. There's an extra hurdle if you want to use color photos. Color photos can be done, but there's a special procedure where you basically have to stipulate that only color can possibly show the invention. So in most cases, when you do need a photograph, it would be a grayscale photograph like what you see here. Anyway, if you want to dig deeper into what goes into drawings, you might check out this book. It is well written and covers many nuances of various drawing types. So thanks again for checking out this episode of Inventor's Quick Tips, and we'll see you again soon.